I work a lot with runners, all different levels of runners, and more recently, a lot of the elites, and but all different types. And I just started working with some college athletes too. So today's talk, it's not even really a talk. I was going to talk for about maybe 20 minutes. And it's really just a review of some key points that I want you guys to focus on before your marathon. And, I'm sure, how many of you guys are running tomorrow? Are all of you guys running tomorrow? Bronx 10? Yeah, raise your hand or like give a thumbs up or something. Okay, cool. Okay. So I was just going to go over some fueling and really, the point of, and then we can talk for about 10 minutes with questions. And as always, you guys can reach out anytime with questions or any comments or anything that comes up at any time. You guys have my contact info. So feel free to do that. Let's see. So I'm going to share my screen. And then I'm going to pull up my slides. Let me start with the first one here. And I'm just going to go right into fueling, because I think that is probably the most important thing. Really, having it dialed in at this point is probably, is really key. Let me just go back here. Sorry. Okay. Okay, it should be coming up now. I'll just keep admitting. Let's see, where is that? There. All right, so I'm just going to have to leave it on this slide because that's probably the easiest way to do it. Okay. Let's see, let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so, and Coach, if you have anything you want to add while I'm talking, please feel free to jump in. So marathon nutrition, you guys are probably starting to taper or you are getting ready to taper. So one of the things Coach and I were talking about is just making sure that your plan is dialed in. Whatever your plan is, write it down, put stickies on your refrigerator or on your mirror in your bathroom, somewhere that you can see your plan and be reminded of what you need to do on race day. You might want to write it down and put that with your bag that you're going to bring to the marathon or bring when you travel, because you might start to get nervous and forget. I know when I was in Eugene for the trials, I wrote down their entire schedule. Actually, Tommy wrote it down, and then I filled in with food and made it really, really clear. So as you're nervous or distracted, if you're traveling, you're in a different place. So it's going to make fueling a little bit different. So let's talk about what to do during, and then we're going to talk about what to do before. Or actually we could start with week of the race. So week of the race, topping off your glycogen stores with high carbs and low fiber. So in the beginning of the week, I think you're going to race on either a Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. You're going to want to have like Monday through Wednesday, let's say like high carbs, and you could have vegetables and have some fiber those first few days. It's just as you get closer to the end of the week, you don't want to be packing in tons of fiber from veggies and big salads and sweet green salads and stuff like that, because it can just cause a lot of bloating and gas. So during the beginning of the week, it's great, and then taper the veggies towards the end. You really want to have like potatoes, pasta, breads, rice, fruits. So, baked potatoes for dinner, pasta meals, your favorite bread, having bread with every meal or some type of carbohydrate. It doesn't have to be a gigantic mound of pasta at every meal, but just having some visible carb at the meal. And Coach was saying like, yes, I tell people to eat so much carb. And the reason is carbs are your fastest conversion of fuel, and it will fuel you for your race. You do need protein and fats, but the carbs are really the predominant energy source during your marathon. So you want to just make sure that you are topping off your stores, and that's the purpose of what you're doing in the beginning of the week leading up. The day before, again, top off. I think I've said this twice, top off glycogen stores with high carb, low fiber foods. And if you're traveling for a race, pack your foods, like know what works for you. I've traveled to Vermont for races, and I brought peanut butter with me, bread, and bars, because food might be somewhere in a different location. It might be hard to get the exact foods that you want. Maybe you're just a little bit distracted and you're not sure of the brands or the types of things. So dial it in, and the portions are different. If you're used to like 2 slices of bread and you go somewhere, just could be very different. So it'll give you confidence at the start line, knowing that you've had the same foods. And I was saying, taking food out of the equation by dialing in a plan. So when you do start your race, you could focus on the running, not on whether or not you had enough fuel. Breakfast on race day, high carb meal, which we all know. So the key here, so if you have a start time at 9, and the elites have done this, and I don't know if you certainly can do this. So if you start at 9, let's say, 6 a.m. or even 5 a.m., you can wake up, eat a bowl of oatmeal, and go back to bed. And then, a lot of these starts, they're not like New York where you have like a 4-hour lag time where you have to get up and then get to the start line. So look at your start time, dial it back 3 to 4 hours. If you really don't want to wake up extra early, then do 3 hours and maybe modify the amount of food that you have. But it's high carb, so bagel, oatmeal, maybe made with water. It might not be the tastiest thing, but it will go down really easily. A little bit of peanut butter or something else, some other protein that's worked for you. And if your stomach is a little off, like if you get really nervous, a bowl of rice and a banana is awesome. That will settle you and hopefully not cause any GI issues. If you are someone that does have GI issues before a race, eat an early dinner, a bedtime snack. It could be a bowl of cereal, could be half a bagel. And then in the morning, you don't have to eat as much because you've gotten that night carbohydrate and it's a little bit less of a burden. So you can get up 2 hours before, eat a small breakfast or munch on pretzels, something that's easy, and then you could start. During the race, 15 minutes before, you take a GU, and I know coaches worked with you guys on that as well. So really topping off those stores. If it's a GU or gel, if you're feeling really nauseous or it's really not something you want to be having, have half of it and see how that feels. And then maybe you can kind of get the other half down. So you don't have to shove it all down at once. You can kind of do half at a time and have a couple sips of water. You don't need to chug water, but a couple sips would be adequate. Your body can tolerate like 1 ounce or 1 gulp of water like every 5 minutes. So you don't want to do major chugging. So here's another area where we've had a lot of question about. So targeting 30 to 60 grams of carb per hour. And that's coming from gels and a Gatorade. So if you're drinking Gatorade on the course, that might be half of your carb right there. And then maybe it's 1 GU. If you are not having, and you're just having water, then maybe it's like 1 to 2 gels, or like 1 every 45 minutes, so 30 to 45 minutes. And the purpose of that is to kind of hold on to your glycogen stores so your body doesn't dip into those until later on in the race. Your body needs that energy to fuel you. So the longer you go, the more energy your body's going to be using up. And we want to preserve the glycogen from your muscles and from your liver. And eating these gels helps to do that. So if you think of the gels as like an investment in your last 6 miles, you don't want to overdo it. Like more is not necessarily better. It can have actually very detrimental effects. But really trying to get to that, like, maybe 1 every 30 to 45 minutes, I think can be really great. And if you have, sometimes some people write it on their arm, the reminders, or they put it on their alarms on their phone. If you know how to do that, I don't know how to, but some people do that, and that's been very helpful. And really the key is to start fueling early and often. So early, don't wait until you don't feel well or hour 20 mark because you've been feeling amazing. You're absolutely going to feel amazing the first hour 20 because you've been running up to 20, 22 miles. It's that this is like an investment in the last part of the marathon, if you want to look at it that way. So we don't want to overfuel. It's like kind of train this. Like if you have a couple more long runs, you can practice this now and see how your body feels. But I wouldn't go far below 30 per hour. I think it's just not going to be enough. So at the minimum, it's like, staying within that 30 or above 30. And here's just another slide with that information. And you guys, a lot of you are in the middle section. I mean, the greater than 3 hours, I still think 30 to 60 is enough, especially if you're way under fueling. That's perfectly adequate. Molly Seidel, I think she was like 50 grams of carb an hour. And she ran it in a little over like 2.5 or so. And some of the other elite men, Kipchoge, when he did the 2 hour, I think I mentioned this before, he had 100 grams of carb an hour. And, that's a lot. And I'm not saying that you guys should do that, but it's just such a big range. You're not going to go under 30 though. That's just too little. This is for workouts. This is also something that I've heard a lot about, like how much food to eat before a workout and am I eating enough? You're underfueled during a workout if you feel this way. Breakthrough hunger during the workout. You feel like you're working hard, but you're not seeing the performance improvements. That could be a food issue, like adding a little bit more food either before or after. Quality of workouts decrease as your week progresses. So by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you're just feeling lousy. Could be that there's not enough food. And you feel sluggish, easily frustrated during practice. It could be a food issue. I'm going to take a look here. Here's the post-workout. I've gone over that before. I'm going to pass through that one. Snack ideas. I'm going to put this up on my Instagram. I think it's really helpful just to kind of be reminded. What is important here is have these foods available. So if you do feel hungry, don't ignore it. Like if you're busy, I know a lot of you have full-time jobs and you guys are really busy. Don't ignore those hunger cues. Have a snack on hand in your bag. I always carry like a little applesauce pouch and a bar, a Cliff Bar, but that's what I love. So if you get a breakthrough or hunger during the day and some point in the afternoon and it's not mealtime or you're really busy, have a little bit of a snack. You can even have half of what you brought with you. This is a grocery list. I thought would be really helpful just to be reminded of what to have. I can also send this to you guys at a later time. Sleep. I'm going to emphasize, and I'm sure Coach talks to you guys about this as well. Sleep is really one of the best ways for your body to recover. Now you're at this really high level of performance and your training is peaking. So give your body adequate food and sleep to get the most results. It also helps your body with digesting foods, improves your mood, and it resets those hormones that will help with your metabolism. So here, this is traveling. So if you're traveling for your marathon, which I think you've got a lot of New York City and people running NYC, but you have the Boston, Chicago people that need to travel. And again, pack snacks the day before. Check your start time. What time does your corral start, or what time is your race time? And then, like I said, walk it back 3 to 4 hours, and then that will be your meal. If you have an early start time, then you want to bring something a little lighter to have closer to like the 2 to 3 hour mark. No new foods. When I did Chicago Marathon, we stayed at a hotel and I couldn't find the types of foods that I wanted. I thought I would have much more access, but our location of our hotel was not what I thought. And so it was a little hard to find what we needed. I had to really go out of my way. And you don't want to be traveling around looking for food the day before your marathon. You want to be resting. So look at the location of where you're staying and what the local grocery stores or the access to food near you. And make sure you have those foods on hand. One of the girls who ran with us, Dahima, she had literally basically a grocery bag of food. And I thought it was so funny. She could make meals for like 3 people with the stuff that she brought from New York. So just bring what works for you and have it on hand. You don't have to be bringing your rice cooker like Stephanie Rothstein does. But just know where you can get those foods that are going to work, and make the reservations at your restaurants, and look at those menus. It's really hard to get into some of the restaurants because these cities are small and they're not used to accommodating the crowds that are coming from for the marathons, and because of COVID, it might have like harder time getting in. So I would highly suggest making a reservation. So let's see. So I'm going to end there. This is just some information on restaurants, how to order. If you're in a restaurant that doesn't have a lot of choices that you're familiar with, just look for healthy carbs like the brown rice, oatmeal, quinoa, baked potatoes. You can almost always find a baked potato or bread. One of my athletes was traveling and doing a steeplechase in Croatia. I had to find the best foods for pre-race in Croatia, and there were not many. It was gnocchi, a lot of gnocchi, but it all had sauce. So I told him to bring a ton of bars just in case he couldn't find the foods that he needed. And avoid sauces. That can really pull you out of the race. Eating foods that you're not familiar with and then having these heavy sauces, all you're going to have is a stomach ache, and you're not going to even be able to think about your next day race. So I'm going to end there, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen if I can figure that. And now I'm going to take questions. So that was just an overview. I hope I covered everything for last minute prep. Does anyone have any questions or any topics they want me to talk about? Anything at all?
Okay, I have a question, so I can start. So, how about, can you mention anything? So, throughout the week, the taper week, should I be eating less, let's say on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and eat more Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if I'm racing on Sunday? Or should I be eating the same that I usually eat? Are there any guidance there?
That's a great question, because there's some studies that show if you train low, like if you deplete carbs, like you'd have to kind of, I think if you're going to commit to like depleting all carbs, like you would cut them out like maybe the week before, and then you eat them the week of race week, you can see a benefit. I've heard that. I wouldn't try that for the first time right now, but I would say keep it even. I think the best thing is just to keep it even. You don't need to increase it because your body's constantly using those carbs. You have all this muscle and all this glycogen now that you've built up, and you've increased your stores, so you want to keep those stores. So you want retention. The way to keep it is to feed them and to make sure that those glycogen, it doesn't get used or burnt up during the day. It will, but you're going to replace it. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yes. So I guess keep it as you usually would.
I'm sorry?
Are you saying that we should keep it as you usually would? Keep eating the same?
Exactly. And the day before, you can make it a little bit more carb. You don't need as much fat or as much protein. You do need some though. I wouldn't just eat bread all day. Mm-hmm. You can do like balance, like having grilled chicken with a baked potato, maybe the day before, and then a banana as a snack with a little peanut butter. And then a smoothie at some point in the day is also fine. So not being extreme and nothing gassy. I think that's a main point. Nothing gassy.
Go ahead. Akio has a question.
Yeah, no, just to piggyback over that, one of the things that I noticed since I started tapering was that I've been eating I guess I've been eating a little bit more than usual because I guess my miles has been going down, and I work from home, so I sit down 90% of the time. And I've always found myself like at the beginning of the pandemic, like in the fridge again, looking for something to eat all the time. And I noticed myself doing that, and I was getting a little bit concerned that am I trying to eat too much? But I don't want to starve myself. But I'm just trying to.
How to regulate that? Right, that's a good question. So I would say it's okay to gain a couple pounds that last week or that last week leading up to the race. I think you have to pay attention to your hunger cues. Like you can ask yourself, am I really hungry or am I bored? And because I'm not running as much, am I kind of going crazy? taper madness. You've heard of that before?
Yes.
I call it road rage madness because I get crazy in the car. But you don't want to use that energy to eat excessively. You don't have to force the food. It's eat when you're hungry and then stop. Like, listen to your body. When you get full, you can stop eating. The week before, it's okay to gain a couple pounds.
Okay, perfect.
It's not like, and if you find yourself going to the fridge so many times, you have to ask yourself, am I really hungry? Or am I nervous and bored and I'm not running, so I have all this extra energy? So it's
Gotcha.
keeping your mind occupied and checking in with your body and your internal cues. Am I hungry or am I not hungry? Am I eating because I feel like I should?
All right, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sometimes I feel
There's-
it's just that people may not be getting sufficient sleep. Also, if you're very tired, you may feel hungry as well. I think
There's something I use called the apple test. And it's basically you ask yourself, would I eat an apple? Am I hungry enough to eat an apple? And if the answer is no, then maybe you're not hungry. Maybe you are like bored or nervous or thinking about your race and feeling like you should be eating carbs or doing something. And you're not running, so you feel like you should be doing something. So if you don't feel like you want to eat an apple, then maybe you don't need to eat.
apple test.
The apple test. I
That's
know. It's a
good.
good one because it really helps you to think about your hunger cues. And I think listening to those up until that last week. The last week, maybe add an extra snack and eat past fullness a couple times. Eat when you're not hungry a couple times is appropriate.
Hey, Amy.
Hey.
The gel I use has a bunch of caffeine in it, and I've never had an issue with it before. But I was wondering for for a 3-hour race if there's any danger to having that much caffeine.
Do you know how many milligrams it has? Is it like 50?
It's 100.
Oh, that's a lot. So, okay, so how many gels then are you taking? If you're doing a 3-hour, are you doing like 3?
I take one like every half hour.
Perfect. So then that's too much caffeine. Okay. So is it Rocket Fuel or Rocket? Something?
It's like the Cliff double espresso one. It's really tasty, but has a lot of caffeine.
So I think really that's a lot. Okay, so that's a total of that's like 6 gels. So that's 600 milligrams of caffeine. A cup of Starbucks tall coffee, like a tall coffee, is about 200 to 300 milligrams. So it's like, I think it's a little too much. If you feel okay doing that, I mean, the harm could just be like a little stress on your heart. I don't think it's a great idea. I think it's a little too much. I would probably dial that down to like 300 to 400. So maybe you get some decaf ones or alternate.
Okay,
Terrible.
perfect. Thank you.
100's a lot. I didn't even know they made those. Actually, I do. My husband, who does not run, bought those and has them as an afternoon snack when he can't get coffee. So he'll eat one of those.
I just put it in my coffee.
Oh.
That's insane.
That was a great question. I'm going to make sure to note that.
Not too much caffeine.
Caffeine. And caffeine's a performance enhancer. There's no question. It definitely does. But it takes an hour to really see the benefit. So maybe you take one in that last hour. It's just not, you're not going to see huge improvements. You just might get really shaky.
Got it.
And you could get a stomach ache. It can cause diarrhea. It creates more of an acid environment. So you don't want anything that can cause like any GI issues, heartburn, reflux, anything like that.
Got it.
How about like fast versus slow carbs throughout the week? Will you consider eating more complex carbohydrates during the beginning of the week, and then maybe the day of, the night before, will you have more of a simple carb, like brown versus white bread, things like this?
I think you could do, yeah, that's a great idea. So like during the week, the only problem I have with that fast versus slow is that potatoes are considered fast, but I think they're one of the best carbs because they're cheap, they're easy to make, and they taste really good. So I would keep that in, and you could combine a fast carb like potato with a meal like chicken and some vegetable, and like then it becomes slow. So I think in the beginning of the week, yeah, you don't want to be doing white stuff. You maybe want to hold that till the end. So eating balanced, high, like not fiber, but like complex carbs, beans. You could do lentils, but not too much, and taper that as the week goes on. Because I think of fast, I think of like sugary things, donuts, pastries, white bread, white flour things. I think are fine, but you don't want to be eating those the day before either, because it's also food you're not used to, and you can get like constipated. One of my runners got constipated. That is the worst feeling, to go to a start line feeling constipated because you've changed your diet so much. So it's like you don't want to do major changes, and that can definitely be an issue that can happen, and you don't want that to happen. If you do feel constipated, dried fruit is really great because it'll still give you the carbohydrates that your body needs. So like, I think this athlete was doing bananas, and he just got crazy. He was having like 2 or 3 a day because I said have bananas, and he just kept eating. I had to like take it out of his hand. I'm like, that's enough. And but he was constipated, and that, changing your diet and like, eating too much of one white thing, or, alternating can make you feel that way. And so, we had to give him dried fruit, and it helped. Yeah, no, it's real. This is a big deal. Like no major changes, I think are important. Anyone have like diarrhea, like, or nervous stomach like that? Is that an issue for anyone? No?
Not that I know of. Not in
Good.
the set of all the athletes that we have not had encounter any of that. I think just most athletes will be concerned about how to time their fueling, whether it is should I be eating a little less and then build up throughout the week, because that's typically what we do in training, in the sense that the low of training, it's more moderate throughout the week, while in the weekend you're gonna log in a bigger session, and therefore people are used to running, maybe eating regular meals to support your training throughout the week, and then towards the day before already increasing the amount of what you eat, amount of carbs, so that you can come back the next day and perform this long session.
Yeah, so it's matching, like you're matching the fuel to the workout.
Yes.
That is exactly it. So the day before a long run, you want to really emphasize getting in like a bigger bowl of pasta than you maybe normally would, or having rice with your meal at dinner that you wouldn't normally. Like tonight would be a good sized portion of like rice or some type of potato or carbohydrate, because if you're racing tomorrow or running long tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So matching it on, easy run days, or, non-workout days, you don't need it to have as much fuel. And that's where, Akil, where you can kind of dial it down a little bit, and not, or if you're going to the fridge so much, you could say, well, I didn't really work out that much. Yeah. So maybe I don't need this food. And, but if you are kind of stocking up for the next day, then you can eat beyond hunger, or when you're not feeling hungry, then it's okay to do that.
Yes. Well, we try.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to match this and make it perfect science.
Yeah, because one thing that is, I guess, is different for our athletes or non-professional athletes is that they're not going to work out as much as a professional athlete. So we'll do just one midweek workout, one longer session. Those are the intensive days, and then on the other days you're aiming for recovery. And so that's why we consider during the midweek workout, which is usually late in the evening after work, and there on that day you're concerned about what you have for lunch, what you have for breakfast, what you have before your run. And then again in the weekend, that's the longer session, and we consider, what do you eat the day before?
What you eat the day before is going to impact how you run on a long run or a race. That is the bottom line. It will definitely have an impact. Too much food, too little food can impact how you run. So you want to eat the right amount without too much or too little. And that night meal is really important to stock up as much as you can. Like, and low fat, I think, would probably be the most important thing, because you don't want to go to bed feeling really uncomfortable and full because you went out for dinner with your non-runner friends and they chose the Indian restaurant and all that food, the tiki masala was delicious, but yet an hour later you were so uncomfortable. I've done that. So you don't want, I think one thing I've talked about with my college athletes and my pro, and I'm telling you guys, if you are with non-runners, you have to acknowledge that. Like, you're different. You eat differently. You're not sharing stuff at the Italian, at the place, what's it called? Whatever, family style, Italian, Carmine's.
Carmine's.
You're not going to,
Yeah.
yes. You're not going to Carmine's with your non-runner friends unless they order the plain pasta with red sauce or something very simple for you. So if you are going to go out with your non-runner friends, just, check in with what your body needs. What are you doing the next day? That's probably the most important thing. And to, what coach is bringing up is be aware. What did you do that day? What does your body need? You didn't really do a tough workout. It was a 7-mile recovery. So follow your appetite, eat balanced. But if you are going to be having a hard session the next day, then you got to make sure your body's stocked and has enough fuel to get you through that. And that would be like a good balanced dinner, maybe sushi, maybe rice with some vegetables, or noodle dish that's light, that doesn't have a huge amount of sauce, that's going to give you a stomach ache and keep you awake. Eating, during the trials, one of the guys had reflux and he ate tomato sauce and he was up all night.
Nice.
So, again, that's for travel. Like, know what works for you, and like write it down, have your plan, and then make sure to implement that when you get to your destination.
What time do you recommend eating the night before? Like at 7 p.m., 6 p.m.? Let's say you have a 9:30 start time.
Yeah, so 9:30 start. So then, you can, sleep in, and, when do you wake up? Like, do you have to travel to your start? Are you in New York?
No, this would be like for London. But I'm talking about like the so the race is Sunday and the Saturday before. Like, what time do you suggest you eat that dinner?
Okay.
That last meal before the race.
I think getting in like a 6 or 7 o'clock dinner is good, because then you have enough time to digest and see how your body feels. And if you're a little hungry, then you can have a small snack before you go to bed. Some cereal, like a small bowl of cereal, is great to top off your stores. And then you wake up and you can have your breakfast. But you're better off going on the earlier side, seeing how your body feels, gives you plenty of time to digest and doesn't disrupt sleep.
Perfect. Thank you.
And that's also good for travel, getting that early reservation. Those are coveted. People want those 6 p.m. dinner reservations when you're traveling. So make it now. Make sure you get that fuel in before. And if you end up at a restaurant and you don't know, like they're serving something that you don't like or don't like the way it's made, just get bread. Have bread. That's your last resort, and that will work. Don't stuff it down. Remember what you normally eat.
Bread and bananas.
What's
Bread and bananas? Bananas.
Bananas are good. I usually go to a grocery store. Like, I'll find a local grocery store, or I'll bring it if I'm driving, and I'll have a bag of my staples.
Maria and I carry out gnocchis sometimes. That's okay. The gnocchis.
Say that again?
The gnocchis is what we usually eat prior to a marathon, which is a potato base.
Nice. Perfect.
All right.
I got one more question if you have time.
Sure.
For people that have 2 marathons this season, like 2 weeks apart or 3 weeks apart, is there any super key type of foods that are good for recovery right after the first one?
So I would say to just refuel as quickly as you can, because you want to kickstart that recovery, and that'll be really important to prevent injury. So, and again, here's my carb spiel. Like, those carbs are really important, because when you eat carbohydrates right after, your body goes into repair mode much faster. It doesn't mean to go and eat a pizza. It just means to start eating some pretzels right when you finish, or maybe a banana, and treat it like then it's a workout. So you want to get in that recovery food and then a really good proper dinner, something with rice. That's a good restocking food, or pasta, or like a high carb, healthy food. And then the weeks in between, the nutrition has to be dialed in as well. Like, what does your body need? It needs healthy carbs. It needs adequate protein from low fat sources. That'll help with inflammation as well. Chicken, fish, turkey, flax seeds are great to have in your diet. Omega-3s, tart cherry juice, really good anti-inflammatory. Doesn't mean to chug the entire bottle, but like have a glass of that every day, like 1 glass every day, maybe 2 at the most, but like you don't need to chug it. Tart cherry juice is really great for post-workouts. Any kind. I bought the organic. It doesn't taste as good, but it works. And you know, any kind of tart cherry juice product is really good. But those, you know, and just eating is really clean and healthy. Because like what I compare it to like the athletes in the countries that are doing really well are like the Kenyans, the Ethiopians. They've got it dialed in. And if you look at their diet, it's very clean, high carb. They eat that ugali, which is a cornmeal kind of thing, a ball. And their diet consists mostly of a cornmeal, a little vegetable, and they eat meat like twice a week. So, and they drink tea with milk all day long. So they're not eating the way that we do. They're not going to Shake Shack. They're not going to like, you know, they're probably not hitting the fridge all day long. They probably have it dialed in where they eat a proper meal. I mean, their lifestyle is very different than ours, but you know, it's just interesting to look at what's working for another culture and see if we can implement some of that here. So a high carb food that's maybe, you know, like I like rice because it's gluten free. Potatoes are gluten free. They're easy to make. It's a simple meal. You're not going to get a stomachache from that. But if you start implementing or changing it up and, you know, ordering in from your favorite Thai place, you know, there's more of a likeliness to get a stomachache. Not to say not to have that, but just keeping all that in mind. I think it's interesting. Yeah, looking at those, I would love to live there and see what they eat. And it's very simple food though. Nothing is overly prepared, and they eat some vegetables, meats they can't afford, so they have it like twice a week. They're not vegans. There's no specialized diet. They just eat a lot of carb, high carb vegetable, and then a little protein. Hopefully that was helpful. I gave you a big long answer there.
All right. Thank you, Amy. I don't know if anyone has any other questions.
And I took some notes, so I could also type it up too. I think your questions are great. These are all really good. And if you guys have questions about it, I'm sure other people have the same questions. So it's great.
You know, we really appreciate your time, and just one thing that you always emphasize is having things dialed in. What that means to me is that it's something you should always have worked on. And every weekend we've done a long run, and I tell people you should write down what you ate, or keep track of it somehow, what you ate before that long run, because you actually, like you said at the beginning, you want to take out your nutrition out of the equation. It's not something you need to think about. So every year we run a marathon, 2 marathons. Most people run 2 marathons at least. You want to figure it out, and so it's good to keep a journal so that you can polish it every year.
And I could give you like a sample journal of what it should include. You know, I could send you a sample entry on what information would be helpful. You know, it's really like what the food is, the timing of it, the run, the conditions of the run. Was it hot, humid, cool? And then how your body felt.
Yeah, that's great. If you send it to us, then we can just share it with everyone.
Yeah, that's a really good.
There are many others. They're not here today. I'm surprised, but there are many others running the marathon, and we'd love to share that with them.
Absolutely. And yeah, if you guys have any other questions, you can always ask. You can always reach out to me anytime. Yeah, and that's all I have.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank
race
you.
tomorrow, you guys. Maybe I'll see some of you
Thank
guys.
you.
I wear like,
Thank you, Amy.
you're
Thank you.
welcome. You're welcome. So I'll look for you guys tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Bronx and Mata.
Thanks, Amy. Take care.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Bye bye.
Bye, guys.